All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Green White Checkered TV. Tonight we have the Dark Horse Racing Area 51 Indy Series here tonight at Iowa Speedway. 135 laps will be our race distance this evening. Say just under a mile in length, so definitely going to be on one of our shorter tracks here tonight. But not going to be for a lack of excitement with that shorter action here tonight. So I know you got some laps in practice, Steve, so we're going to jump straight over to you here. Because say these laps click by very quickly. Qualifying trim will probably see 16-second laps. Race trim 17-second laps. Take us through a lap here, and what have you been able to kind of catch on over the course of the laps that you've done?
All right. So in qualifying, it's going to be almost flat out all the way around, and they're going to have to play with the weight jacker to get their best laps. And they're going to have to play with the weight jacker in race trim also. But I did notice, you can pretty much take any line you want around the track. The problem is if you take too early of an entry to the turn, like you would do in a cup car, you're going to push really badly off the turn and go right into the wall. So it looks like you need to late apex. I'll give an example here, because I was watching a lot of these guys take a very high entry like this, and then come down so that you don't push off into the wall on the exit. I also noticed that there's definitely some aero push when you're behind somebody. And the other thing that people are two things they're going to have to be really careful about. Stay off the apron, because as soon as your left tires touch the apron, you're going around, or at least losing traction and almost spinning. And the second thing is entering the pits is really hairy. If you don't turn in early enough, you're going to miss the pit entrance entirely.
Yeah,
I did during practice.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think also on Steve on the pit entry, I want to say I saw some drivers practicing pit entry, and I think what they've gone ahead just for the safety side of things is to set the pit entry for drivers to actually come off the racing surface entering turn number 3 and run the apron. So I'll have to keep an eye on that. It's something we do see IndyCar do in the actual series from time to time, so we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that as well here. But you're right, though. There's definitely a lot of things to watch out for. I do feel like for the shorter tracks, so I think Iowa is definitely one that can put on some really good racing, because you can really run all 3 lines here, that top, middle, and the bottom, and find speed if you have the pace in your car. So I think that will give drivers a little bit of option for or try to move around and try to find that clean air in the front wing. But I do think we're going to see kind of that theme, though, Steve, where track position is going to be for sure king. And of course, the fuel mileage is also going to be big here tonight with about that 40-lap fuel window. I think that could come into play again here as well with this race being, again, 135 laps will be our race distance this evening.
Yeah, and one thing I forgot to mention, they're probably going to be shifting 4th in the turns and 5th on the straightaways. Maybe not in qualifying, but it felt like I had to do that in race trim. Although you can get away with staying in 5th gear, and just if you back off at the right time and play with the gas pedal right, you could get around here pretty good without having to go down to 4th.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely something we'll be keeping an eye out for. So we do got to do, Steve, here before we get to qualifying, just about to complete. We got to pull up our point standings for tonight. And right now, our top 3 in the points all are here. It is a bit of a short field tonight, but our top 3 in the points are all here tonight. Nick DeGroot, Craig Forsyth, and Scott Rankin. So this could be a big night for them to kind of maximize the smaller field here tonight and try to get some good positions for them. Right now, Nick with an 18-point lead over Craig, 19 over Scott. So, again, 19 points separating our top 3. And then a pretty big jump back to Matt Wagner in 4th. There's 75 out. However, at the moment, does not look like he's here today, so he's definitely going to take a bit of a tumble in the points. Again, regular season point standings, no playoffs or anything like that. So I do believe all drivers get 1 drop week, this being race number 6 of 12, or sorry, race number 7 of 12, just completed 6 last week. So let's say we're starting to get to that second half of the season here. So those points and the bonus points and that drop week, I think, is going to start to weigh pretty heavily on some of these guys' minds here tonight.
Yeah, definitely. And I think in a case like Matt's, I think he felt that he'd already kind of used up his drop week with one of the really bad races that he had. So I'm surprised that he's not here tonight.
Yeah, not sure. Maybe something going on for him, but hopefully everything's okay. But definitely missing him on track here. However, we have just completed qualifying, so we're going to pull up our starting grid here tonight. On pole position is going to be that number 89 of Nick DeGroot with the 16.685. Then you got Jeff Heisung, Jim Herrick, Yari Brubacher, Craig Forsyth, our top 10. And then you got Alec Coates, Eric Peterson, Gary Corley. Steve, you're not racing tonight, sorry. But then you have Joseph Morales in 10th. Jack Wall's going to move up into that 9th spot on the inside lane with Scott Rankin in 12th. And then again, pretty small field here tonight. You got Jim Brooks and Thaddeus McMurray going to be our 13 drivers taking part in tonight. And I say we're going to mention a few other things here during the night tonight, Steve. So we won't do spoilers yet about that, but we're going to be talking about again kind of the family and friends and kind of the group that we have here with this league, kind of spotlighting one of our drivers, what he's got going on the back end. So definitely looking forward to being able to kind of share some of that info with you all here tonight as well. So it looks like just a few more drivers waiting to get onto the grid. And I believe that's going to be, and then we'll get things going here again. 135 laps will be our scheduled race distance tonight. Again, no green, white checkers, anything like that. All drivers do have the one fast pair in their pocket should they need it. And saying this, like I said, Steve, that arrow push, I think, could be a big reason why we see that fast pair in use. So I think we're going to see this field spread out pretty quickly, pretty early. And I also think that strategy is going to be a big one here tonight. That risk versus reward of maybe making that short pit strategy, try to get a little bit off sequence, maybe try to jump somebody in the pits. But again, when you're running 16, 17-second laps, it's a big gamble to try to pit early and risk getting yourself trapped multiple laps down here tonight.
And this may be one of the races where tire wear plays a big role as well.
Yeah, no, I think tires could definitely play a pretty big role in this one here this evening as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what the strategy is going to be for these guys. Some drivers maybe opt to take it easy early on and then really try to use those tires later in the run. Whereas I think some of these drivers up front are going to try to get the track position early and then just try to keep that control of that spot. So we'll have to wait and see. I believe we're going to have 2 times around here, the start-finish line. Usually at the short tracks, they run that extra lap around, and sure enough, the pace car is staying out. But again, you mentioned, Steve, that pit road entry. I mean, you can kind of see it off to the camera there on the side. You almost want to pit. You would think you're wanting to turn in there to the outside of those barrels just based on kind of the way the corner curves there. But you got to cut to the inside of those barrels there, obviously at the very end, to get into pit lane, and so it's very easy to overshoot that pit entry. Definitely could run into some troubles there tonight as well.
Yeah, I've done that way too many times, and it's kind of hard to tell that you're missing pit road because it's paved on the outside of the wall. So as you're coming around, the wall on the inside of the track is still blocking your view of where pit road is, and then all of a sudden you see that there's a paved area that's going straight like a pit road would, and so you don't think you have to turn that tight. And then next thing you know, there's those barrels and you're on the wrong side of them.
Yeah, exactly right. So as long as you're on the wrong side of them, I'm not in them, I think that might be kind of a mission accomplished for some of these guys tied with that, especially if we get that green flag pit stop there. I see the pace car ducks off, waiting for that green flag to fly, and it is out as we are underway here tonight, under 135 laps there. You see Yari Brubacher wasting no time. Is going to jump straight to the top there in 1 and 2 as they go 3 wide for second.
Yeah, very aggressive move.
As we talked about, Steve, we mentioned some drivers might be aggressive early, some might be kind of try to save their tires. I saw one up against the wall there. I think that may have been Jim Herrick and made some contact with the wall, but we got trouble behind the field here, and it looks like it may have involved a couple drivers. Thaddeus McMurray, he's got pretty significant damage. Eric Peterson also involved. That car looking okay. It looks like it's tracking straight as well, so maybe just looped it trying to avoid the incident. We'll go back and take another look here to see, but unfortunately, I think we saw Jim Herrick catch the wall off of turn number 4 here. So I think that might be, unfortunately, possible fast repair damage for him. Yeah, it's a pretty solid hit there. And then, you look in the back there, just a little bit of a checkup reaction there. I think Eric Peterson saw what was happening And unfortunately gets caught from behind from Gary Corley there in the number 7. You see Jim Brooks, Jack Walls all trying to sneak around here. And I think this is where you're going to see Thaddeus McMurray also get a piece of this as well, where he has to go through the grass. And I don't think these cars, especially when you start bouncing through the grass, it usually does not make these cars very happy. And unfortunately, just has to lock it down there at the very, very end. And I think, yeah, it just catches the outside wall. Can't tell if there's suspension damage there, Steve. That would be the big question or not. And, oh, yeah, it looks like that the right front's definitely towed in here. Was hoping maybe if it was a square shot there, he could maybe just get a nose cone repaired, but that definitely is some more significant damage to Thaddeus. So we're going to have a handful of fast repairs here right off the bat, Steve. Let's say obviously drivers involved there, including Gary Corley. We just had mentioned him in that number 7. And then you've got Eric Peterson, who's already back on out there in the 36 machine. Thaddeus McMurray looks like he's going to try to hit pit road this time around here. And then also involve, I think it was those 3 drivers. So Gary Corley, Thaddeus McMurray, and the 36 of Eric Peterson. Pretty much most of the field stayed out. Looks like from about Jari Brupacher. Actually, surprising here, Jari Brupacher pitting there, Steve. Jumped all the way to second, now jumps right back into the pits here. So maybe trying to go off strategy here, thinking about that fuel numbers that we talked about.
I guess so, although I think I'd rather have track position.
And unfortunately, they just got the info from Matt Wagner, so just unfortunately, real life just wasn't able to get home in time to join the server. Was basically trying to get in as the field was gridding, and unfortunately, that's going to be the cause for him not to make tonight's event. So definitely a tough one for Matt there, saying especially this would be a good opportunity for him with the fact that it's a shorter field here tonight as well. So what this does, though, is it jumps a few drivers way up the running order here, Steve, though, with those drivers that had all pitted there. Look at Jim Brooks already almost 10 spots gained there, plus 9 right now up to 4th. Scott Rankin plus 7 up into 5th here. So those drivers opting to stay out and making pretty big advantage of that right off the bat.
And I noticed somebody has gone into the pits, I guess, to top off.
Yeah, it looks like Joseph Morales leading a few drivers in. Jim Herrick and Alec Coates just getting that little bit more fuel. Actually, Alec just now rolling out of pit road. Looks like Alec may have had something as well. A longer pit stop for him, about 28 seconds. Not sure if maybe trying to fix something on his end or if there's damage repairs or anything like that. Gary Corley, Jack Walls, they had about 14, 16 second pit stops for those guys. And usually that lengthier pit stop could entail either a front or rear wing change, because it does add about 5-10 seconds for the front and rear wing changes. So could be something that we saw there from those guys as well. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that. But again, being a short track, though, kind of longer caution laps here, so that's why these guys are still kind of rolling around here. I believe they'll most likely at least getting the 2 to go this time around. But I think those guys that pitted, though, at this point, might as well just keep getting just that little bit extra fuel, because you never know if it's going to come out and benefit you.
Yeah, if they manage to squeeze out more than 40 laps, it's possible that the strategy could save them a pit stop if it stays green.
Yeah, and the numbers I was hearing was high 30s if you're being real aggressive on the fuel numbers. However, if you were in traffic, I'll say they were thinking more likely into the 40 range. And so that's going to be a big question, of course, because again, if you're mid-pack here, there's going to be probably a lot of being off throttle, or again, maybe just trying to save fuel and just maybe go to a map 3, even map 5 if you can get away with it. I don't think you could here, but so we'll have to wait and see on that one. However, front's going to be Nick DeGroot, Jeff Heisong going to restart up into second now, Craig Forsyth third, and Jim Brooks, Scott Rank around out our top 5. But now again, here's where he's got control of this restart here, single file restart. As you see, he drops a gear, he is down and away, gets a nice little head of steam here over Jeff Heisong as we go back into turn 1 here, start lap number 8.
And Jari Brupacher, because so many people stayed out, he actually ended up getting all the way back up to 6th, despite having taken a pit stop.
Yeah, still a little surprised about that strategy, but again, maybe seeing some numbers that he wants to look at, so we'll keep an eye on that. As Scott Rankin's looking to try to get 4th position here from Jim Brooks. Again, talked up to multiple lines here. Scott's going to have the inside shorter distance. Jim's going to have the momentum on the outside line. And, of course, a little bit of draft there, too. It's a short track, but draft still plays a big role. And look at the momentum loss there from Scott there. It brings him right into the clutches of Jari Brupacher here, who showed he was going to waste no time being aggressive there on that initial on the initial start, I should say. So, and again, getting great run here off of turn number 4. A little loose there, had to roll out of it. And it's going to let Scott sneak away for just a moment.
Yeah, I think it's going to be difficult to make a pass on the inside, at least on fresh tires, because of the push that you get coming off the turn if you're down on the inside.
Yeah, I do think the aero wash will be difficult, and so that's going to be the question, to see where guys kind of move around here. As you see Craig Forsyth, a little bobble off of 2, that brings Jim Brooks even closer here as they go through 3 and 4. Again, right now these guys racing like they are 17-second laps here. So, I mean, let's hop on board here. We'll try to find. So we'll watch this battle here. Jim chasing Craig here. We'll hop on board and go through a lap here at speed, and just to show how quick everything's happening here at this track at Iowa. Actually, while we're doing that too, I can pull up our dashboard and get some info. So right there, over 180 miles an hour, Steve, entering turn number 1. And you can see going down the back already up to 190, almost 195, it looked like, entering 3. And you should get a little more speed through the front stretch with that longer front banked turn, kind of the trial almost, if you will. And yeah, sure enough, almost hits 195 once again. So, I mean, the pace of these cars, I mean, so you think about what these stock cars can run at Iowa. These guys running in the 190s here, 195s. I mean, that's incredible, the speed that these cars are able to go through at this track.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy compared to what you do in a stock car.
So up front, Nick DeGroot, he's kind of snuck away a little bit here. Say lap time wise, he's just about a tenth quicker than Craig Forsyth. But you can see right there, just off the inches off the wall there at a 4. And so it's definitely not for a lack of, he's not on a Sunday afternoon drive here. He is definitely still going after it here. So he's definitely trying to get everything he can and maybe trying to build that gap over the field if he can, just basically make max advantage of that clean air. But right now, about a 2-second margin over Jeff Heisong in second.
And Nick is doing what Nick really likes to do, which is not only get out there and lead, but run away from everyone if he can. We'll see. Be interesting to see if his tires hold up.
Yeah, that'll be a good question to see if there's anybody maybe holding back their tires a little bit, then make that late charge. Because right now Jeff Heisong in second, he's in a spot where he can take care of his tires. He's not going to really be getting any wake off of the 89 anymore of Nick DeGroot. So should be basically driving as if that thing's in pretty clean air himself. Craig Forsyth, Jim Brooks, they're going to be getting wash off of the cars in front of them because they're definitely close enough. Obviously, Jim about 0.3 off of Craig. But you can see he's starting to move around again, trying to find where's the best place to position his car to keep that clean air on the front wing of his machine. You see there, Craig runs the middle, Jim runs a little lower there at the 3 and 4. I say anything you can do to try to keep that clean air is going to be a benefit to you. But right now, driver that's actually was starting to click off lap times just on pace with our leaders, or with our leader, I should say, Scott Rankin in that number 156. Two laps ago, so both of them running 17:30s. A little slower that lap of this previous lap, but this time we'll see what he runs. And it looks like a 17:54. So yeah, pretty much Nick DeGroot in the 30s, everybody else in the 50s. So about a 0.2 advantage right now to that 89 car. However, Jim's starting to put some more pressure here on that number 27 of Craig Forsyth. And this is definitely the closest we've seen anybody get to a car in front of them here. So I'm not sure if this is maybe, again, tire savings by Craig or just pace by, or pace by that 51 machine here.
I ran some in-car laps with Nick DeGroot, and he was taking a very high line through 3 and 4 and a slightly higher line than what I've seen most of these guys in 1 and 2.
Yeah, so it looks like he's working around. I believe that was Thaddeus, or no, I'm sorry, that was Alec Coates. He's getting around there, put Alec a lap down. So right now, Alec and Thaddeus both sitting a lap down as they run. Like I mentioned, though, Steve, with Jim kind of closing up on Craig and kind of stuck there, it's really brought Scott Rankin right into the mix. So now you got 3 cars within about a second and a half of one another here. Actually, it looks like 3 cars within a second of one another now that I'm looking at it closer. So that's what's going to happen. Look at Scott there. Gets a huge run off of 4 here. He's going to take a look at the inside of 1 here. Again, keeping it clear on the front wing. Gets a good exit off of 2. Stays right tucked up behind that 51. And this is where you got to decide where you want to put your car here. And you see, like you said, Steve, Scott running a little higher than 3 and 4. Gets a great exit off of 4. You're going to take a look entering 1. Oh man, Jim tried to get everything out of turn 2. Just about kissed the wall, it looked like. But I think, again, Scott's going to use that momentum to his advantage. He does, so he's going to grab that 4th position now. So right now, Jim and Scott tied for the highest climber with 8 spots gained each. So now we'll see if Scott able to use that outside line to his advantage, using that momentum on the exit, because it seems like that's been working very well from these last couple laps. And again, you can visually see the gap that he gains there, Steve, on the exit of 3 running that top.
Yeah, and I think the difference is when you run the top, you don't push as bad coming off the turn. So I think that's why he's gaining so much on these guys.
Yeah, the question, of course, would be also is maybe burning a little bit more tire if he's running that top lane or not. But you see now he's going to have to go middle bottom there because they're working around Alec Coates here, trying to get around that number 3 machine. So that's going to allow these guys to kind of sneak away here back and forth a little bit. Looks like Scott can't quite clear that 3 car, so he's going to have to try to regroup and get it done here out of 1 and 2. And so I think you'll see Alec probably cut him a little bit of slack there as well. And yeah, sure enough, he's going to roll out of it to let Scott clear there and go back after Craig here. So now the battle's starting to heat up here between 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, because right now Jeff Hysong, that gap's starting to close a little bit between himself and Craig Forsyth as well.
Here we are at lap 33, so we're not too far away from when pit stops will probably start. And I think that Nick DeGroot is probably going to be our first person into the pits. So
yep,
we'll learn a lot from what lap he has to pit on.
Yes, and that's going to be a good question. Yeah, so right now a little further back, we're watching Jim Herrick, Gary Corley battling for the 8th position between the 2 of them. But we're going to jump back up because Scott Rankin, he has found Craig Forsyth here. However, while we watch that battle, we're going to have to jump around a little bit because we got to talk about some stuff here. Saying that the timing was going to be on lap number 36 for car number 36, Steve. And that's going to be one of the admins over on the Dark Horse side on the Wednesday series, and of course one of our competitors here over with Area 51 in car number 36, and that's Eric Peterson. And so yeah, basically say he's racing tonight. He's going to have to take tomorrow off because he's having to kind of take care of some real world things. But however, has one of the most dedicated fan bases on Green White Checker TV, being his dad. So unfortunately, his dad in the hospital right now, but still watching the race here tonight. So definitely wanted to give a shout out and hope for a quick and full recovery for you, Mr. Peterson, over in South Carolina. But did get some fun insights from Eric there though before the race. Sounds like basically when things kind of kicked off with them, kind of the kickoff for Eric's racing inspiration was through his dad. Actually got to do some kart racing from 82 to 88. And actually with his dad being his crew chief, they were able to win the Junior 4-Cycle Dirt Championship in 1984, and then the Indoor Circuit in 1985, and then also the Asphalt NRKA Senior 4-Cycle Championship in 1988. So some pretty good stats there for driver and crew chief there, father and son. It's always fun to see those kind of combos. So but yeah, definitely wishing you the best though, Mr. Peterson. So yeah, so hopefully, like I said, quick and full recovery, and definitely look forward to seeing you be able to watch this from the comfort of your own home here pretty soon.
Yep, and I second everything Gael said. Get well soon.
And so, Steve, with that, we have crossed lap 40. We got to 41 again. We did have some decent laps under yellow, but like you said, Nick DeGroot has yet to pit here. So we'll definitely keep an eye on him. But I got to jump back here because we've got a cluster here, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. We've got Scott Rankin, Craig Forsyth, Jeff Hysong, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And they are battling tooth and nail right now for that position. And I think that might be one of those things. Actually, as I said, here comes Nick DeGroot. He's going to hit pit road. And that was going to be my thought, was maybe they're fighting to try to get that lap led. And it's going to be Jeff Hysong leading that lap here as they head back into turn number 1.
Okay, so he went 42 laps on fuel, 43.
And so the other thing to mention is none of these guys pitted under that yellow either, so they'll be in similar fuel situations, but this is where Nick is going to be very nervous here because, as you see, here comes Jeff Heisong. He's going to hit pit road, and you can see the entry there going down into turn number 3, bringing Jim Brooks along with him. So that's going to cycle Scott Rankin to the point, so Scott's going to get one of those ever-critical bonus points. But yeah, that's going to be the fuel number's going to be interesting. Here comes Scott. He's going to hit pit road. That's going to cycle it over to Craig Forsyth. But again, I'm watching the timing and scoring on the left here, Steve. You can see it definitely has put Nick DeGroot 1 lap down. It looks like just 1 down. But that being said, though, about a straightaway away from being that 2 down. So that's the danger of having the short pit. As here comes Craig. He's going to complete the cycle for those leaders that did not pit under yellow. That's going to cycle it over now to Jari Brupacher, who again did pit under that last caution.
Yeah, and he's probably about 4 laps away from pitting.
Yeah, that's going to be the fun thing to see, kind of where everything starts to cycle out. As you can see, they just got around the 18 and the 51 there, so that's going to put those drivers a lap down as they run. The other driver to watch is going to be Jim Herrick. He actually topped off as well, so he's going to be able to have just a tiny bit more fuel than those guys. Right now, Jari, he gets an important lap lead there in the 49. He's got about a second, 1.3 over Eric Peterson here. And then Jim Herrick another 2 or so seconds back. So we'll keep an eye and see where everybody kind of cycles out. But right now, I mean, look at this. Jari Brupacher, even with the older tires but running low fuel, he is putting a lot of pressure right now on Scott Rankin here, which puts Scott right on the edge of getting put 2 laps down at the moment. Alec Coates has just hit pit road in the number 3 as well. But right now, though, Jari is running some pretty long fuel numbers here, Steve. Sorry, I was thinking about Matt there on the fuel number stuff. So I'm thinking, again, I think we talked about surprised that he pitted from second, but these guys pitted at lap number 40, 42 to 45 or 46. He's at 51 here. He is a full 5 laps longer than one of the most recent ones. And he's already now 10 laps further on field than our leader at the time of Nick DeGroot. So this is interesting. Depending on how this race plays out here, I think Yari's thinking definitely big picture here. And I think Eric Peterson in a similar boat because he's still staying out. Right now our top 5 have yet to hit pit road for their first stop here. Or first green flag stop.
Yeah, all of them are going to be able to make the rest of the race on 2 more stops. Nick DeGroot is going to need 3, I think, if I've calculated things correctly.
Yeah, that's going to be big. And say Jim Herrick, he's hit pit road in that number 40. So that leaves now 4 drivers: Jari, Eric, Jack, and Joseph. And again, those guys all did pit under that yellow. Again, one we need to mention those. Actually, Jim Herrick was the one that topped off. He's actually had to hit pit road already. As you can see, yep, here comes Jari Brupacher. He's going to hit pit road. He's able to get a stop there. He's going to bring Eric Peterson along. Was able to go just as far. Getting just a little more mileage. 83 of Jack Walls. He's going to cycle through as the race leader. He's going to get a lap lead as Joseph Morales is going to cycle up into second.
So Jack has really done a good job of stretching his fuel.
Yet here he comes. He's going to hit pit road coming to 56. And then Joseph Morales, even better fuel mileage here, Steve. He's going to go another lap in that number 60 car. So he's going to get to lead a lap here in that 60 as well. And then things will cycle back over to Nick DeGroot, but you know Nick was sweating bullets for those that's almost 15 laps there, that the difference between when Nick pits and when these guys pit. So once he completes his pit stop here, we'll get the cycle reordered here and kind of give you intervals of where everybody is in relation to one another. But right now it's going to cycle back to Nick DeGroot as our race leader here.
So those guys made so many laps on a tank of fuel. I'm going to modify what I said before. I think if Nick DeGroot focuses on saving fuel now, that he can make it on the same number of pit stops as the rest of these guys. But he's really got to focus on that.
And I'm thinking he might be, Steve, because you saw right there, he just let Alec Coates by, and Alec pitted on lap number 47, so only 5 laps later than Nick. So I'm thinking that right there is probably Nick saying, seeing that, you know what, if I don't do this, then I'm going to be in big trouble. So I think that's what we see there. Looking at lap times, he's running a 17:88. This time 17:59. However, he's got 4 seconds to play with over Craig Forsyth, who's currently sitting in second position. And so let's do that. Actually, let's run through the field here real quick to go through our running order. So again, Nick DeGroot, our race leader, pole sitter, in first. Second place is Craig Forsyth in that number 27, +3 from his starting spot. Scott Rankin about a second back there in third. He is +9 from his starting position. Then we got Jeff Heisong in fourth. And then right now, Jari Brupak rounding out our top 5. And that's a great stint for Jari as well, Steve. Again, going a lot longer than the leaders, but still cycling out in the top 5. So again, I think Yari's going to be one to keep an eye on if this race stays under green. In 6th, you got Jim Brooks, who's +7 from his starting position. And we mentioned a little earlier, Eric Peterson sitting in that 7th position where he started tonight. And then also one of those ones that ran longer with Jari there. Then you got behind him Jim Herrick that pitted on 52. And then Jack Walls, Joseph Morales, those that went the furthest on field, pitting at 55 and 56, sitting in 9th and 10th. And then you've got Gary Corley in 11th position, who is in a gaggle right now. And it's always a tough spot to be in here as these guys fight for a position. And you can see, I think that's Jari trying to find a way to get around all of them here. And then you got Alec Coates there in 12th, and then Thaddeus McMurray in the 13th position. So we're already, again, Stephen, these laps to go green, they click off quickly, and we're already approaching lap number 65 next time around. So not too far away from hitting the halfway point of this race.
So let's see. I think I got the number of pit stops wrong, because if Jari stretches his fuel like he did on the first run, I believe that
that might go to the end.
Yeah, he has to make one more stop.
So if we go if we work our numbers backwards, let's say we know 40 laps of fuel is the minimum. If they can get to lap 95, that would be 40 laps to the end. So I think lap 95 is going to be the window that some of these drivers are going to be aiming for, to try to see if maybe they can just basically get rid of one more stop if they can avoid having that last splash of fuel.
And if I'm calculating correctly, Jari had gone, I believe, 51 laps on a tank. Wow, he almost ran into, I'm not sure who that is ahead of him, but.
Trying to see what that car number on the ticker here is.
Oh, I think it's
maybe Alec Coates. No, it's not Alec Coates. That is Thaddeus McMurray in the 37. But yeah, this is a tough spot for Jari here to be, because he wants to get around and get going. But at the same time, yeah, you don't want to make too many risks, especially if you think you're on the right fuel strategy. As you see there, I think Thaddeus goes ahead and lets him by there. So nice gesture there by Thaddeus. But yeah, it's a tough position to be in there. What that did, though, is that started to bring Jim Brooks, Eric Peterson right into the thick of this as well, because he had closed the gap on those guys. So now it's but as soon as he got clear, he has set sail there in that number 49 car. But Eric Peterson starting to close the gap on Jim Brooks a little bit. And Jim Herrick starting to creep in as well for that 6th, 7th, and 8th positions here.
And Jari is definitely putting down faster laps than he's been gaining around 2/10 to 3/10 every lap.
Yeah, and that's, to me, I'm looking to see where Nick DeGroot is. He is a nice, clean air here, Steve. There's nobody around him. And I think it's exactly what we talked about, Steve. I think he's realized the field numbers that he's going to need to do, and I think he ran hard that first run, saw how much longer everybody else went over him after his pit stop, and did the numbers and said, you know what, if I do what I'm doing here, I'm going to wind up finishing probably outside the top 10 if I have to make that extra pit stop. So I think he's making a quick adjustment, kind of doing driving and crew chiefing and fuel mileaging all in one here. Which is always a really tough combo to do. But so yeah, giving up a little bit of time. Still, it's got 3.5 seconds to play with over Craig. So he's got some room to work with, and that's the benefit also of making those big moves early, is that gives you some wiggle room, if you will, in these future fuel runs.
Okay, so Jari went 51 laps on the first run, plus he had pitted on lap 4, so it was lap 55 when he pitted. If you say he can get 51, that means he can go all the way to 106 before he has to pit again.
And I think that's the call. I mean, I think at this point, you run this car as far as you can, because again, if you get a yellow, you could trap a lot of contenders a lap or more down. I mean, after this first pit stop cycle, we've got lapped all the way up to now Jack Walls in the 83 car on back. However, Jack's not giving up here. He's been running pretty fast laps here, 17:33s. Although 17:72s, right on par here with Nick DeGroot on his lap time. So I say I think Jack's starting to try to put the pressure back on Nick to get himself back on the lead lap. Because it's always nice to be able to do that instead of having to take that wave around and have to restart the tail end of that lead lap. So we'll definitely be keeping an eye there. And then also, Scott Rankin's been putting down some pretty good numbers as well. He's starting to close that gap on that 27 of Craig Forsyth. Those two pitted within a lap of each other, so they should be in pretty similar fuel strategy here.
And they're both closing in on Nick DeGroot.
Yeah, so right now this is our top 3 in points here, Steve, running 1, 2, and 3. I think actually in the same order, or I know Nick's leading the points. I can't remember if it's Craig or Scott in second, but they were only 1 apart in that 27 and 156. So what Nick's got going for him is the fact that he's going to get the bonus point for the pole, bonus point for the most laps led at this point. I don't think that's going to go anywhere else. Scott Rankin, though, he's working on trying to be that highest climber award driver in that 156. So so it kind of leaves Craig on the outside of the extra bonus point, if you will, compared to these two that are kind of getting the bonuses of the pole and then the highest climber. But Scott is on a move here. He's going to look underneath here, try to grab that second spot in turn number 1.
All right, so the first segment, Nick DeGroot pitted on lap 43. So he went 43 laps on his first tank. If he was running as hard this time and not trying to save fuel, we would see him pitting in about 5 laps. So I'm curious to see how much farther he goes.
That's a good point. Well, yeah, no, that'd be about right. Because I was going to say, well, we got to account for the yellow, but now that I think about it, yeah, I think you're right there, Steve. So that's going to be the big question is, how far can Nick go here? I think that also might be what we're seeing with Scott and Craig here. Is I think Scott may be feeling like, you know what, I think I'm in my window to make it to the end at this point in the race. So I think that's why he's turned the wick up in that 156. Again, I mean, you might as well, if you can put the pressure on Nick to make him burn maybe a little more fuel. Again, they pitted 3 and 4 laps later than Nick did. So it could open up some opportunities for them. So like I said, I think that magic number, though, Steve, is probably lap number 95 to be able to really be aggressive on the fuel to the end.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, too. And Scott Rankin, he's chipping off 3 to 4 tenths a lap from Nick DeGroot.
Yeah, he is definitely on the throttle right now, trying to get up to him. So the one thing that's going to be a little tough for Scott here is he's going to start to get into the wake of Jack Walls, and then you just have to hope that you're not running the same line as Jack. But yeah, I think this is where Scott's just trying to make everything he can here before that final pit stop or potential final pit stop. But what I am saying here, Steve, though, is based on how far these guys are going this time around, this is basically 45 laps now on fuel for Nick DeGroot. So I think we know what the strategy is. He made sure he was going to hit his fuel number, and I think this is Scott trying to add some pressure to maybe try to run Nick back out of that fuel window if he gets a chance.
Yeah, no doubt. Plus, Scott has 3 extra laps to play with, which is still cutting it kind of close.
Well, that's what's going to be fun, is I think to see how aggressive. Actually, as I said, here comes Nick DeGroot. He is going to hit that pit road. This should be his final scheduled pit stop coming in at lap number 89 here, Steve. So again, he went from 42 to 89, so that's 45 laps, and we're at just about 45 to go. We're at 47 to go, so I think that is doable for him. So he's just going to maybe save a little more, and I think that's why you're seeing this aggression from Scott Rankin as Craig Forsyth actually hits pit road. I thought Craig would have been able to go further than Scott there. So maybe Scott just took care of his tires and now is getting after it here when he needs to. So then again, I think the big question mark is going to be Jari Brupacher. How far more can Jari go to try to keep that pressure on these guys that are pitting here early on?
Yeah, and Jari's definitely he's been on the move. But I think right now that Scott Rankin is in the catbird seat on this one.
Yeah, at this point, we're at 45 to go. We're at 90. We know that, and we've seen drivers go 45 laps, so we know he can make it from here. And the other thing that he's got going for him is he's got Nick DeGroot right now sitting 2 laps down. I'm going to say it's not going to last long, though, because he's going to hit pit road right now in that 156. But look at the pit stop cycle. Look at Craig Forsyth. He is all over the rear wing of Nick DeGroot here as Nick's trying to work around Gary Corley. So this could be a really good lead battle here as they approach this final pit stop cycle. But what's happened here, though, Steve, is now Jari Brubacher, he cycles back to the front. Again, he went significantly longer than the other guys before, so I don't suspect we'll see him in until he absolutely has to, because right now he's got a lot of drivers trapped a lap or more down.
Yep, that's correct. And we know once he's made it a couple more laps, he can pit and go as hard as he wants for the rest of the race.
Yeah, it's also a really good point. He can pretty much map one it the rest of the way here. However, I'm going to jump over to Scott Rankin because he's just rolling out of pit road now. And there goes Nick DeGroot there on the outside. It looks like Craig's going to jump him as well. So basically, at this point, it's game on for these 3 up front. The question mark is going to be the fuel mileage. Do any of them have to back it down a little bit? But you're right, though. I think at this point, we're pretty much at lap number 95 here. We're at 40 to go this time around. At this point, I really think Jari can pretty much run this thing map 1 to the end if he needs to. But again, I think he did. Basically, he took his hit at the beginning, pitting there, saving fuel, and then now he's going to be able to be aggressive this last portion of the race.
Yep, very much so. Although I really think that based on how fast Scott Rankin was at the end of that last run, despite having gone a lot more laps than the guys ahead of him, I really think that he's in a position to win this race.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see. I say right now, Craig's starting to creep back in onto Nick. But while we're watching this battle here and before our final pit stop cycle through here, Steve, we've got a little bit, I say unfortunately, who should be a competitor here tonight, but unfortunately, going to join us in the booth for a little bit here, and that's going to be that number 11 of Matt Wagner. Unfortunately, work real life got away from him making the race here tonight, but I'm sure you're watching though, Matt. I mean, what are you seeing as a competitor here that stands out to you with what these guys are doing here at Iowa?
I've been watching the last about 6 or 7 laps. I'm really loving how Scott Rankin is managing his race right now. Taking his time for the first couple of maybe about 10 laps or so, and then manage his tires very, very well. He made that pass on Craig Forsyth very well, and I'm really surprised he was able to make it. Speaking of that, he is creep on Craig Forsyth as we speak. Well, these guys know what they're doing. It's no longer flat foot here around Iowa with iRacing implementing these changes. It's a whole different animal now.
Yeah, so I heard you go quiet there because they are starting to get dicey up front. So you saw right there, Eric Peterson, actually, he just hit pit road. But, man, yeah, Craig was working over Jack for a while. They're just trying to get around him. Now he does. But say this is where we saw before, though. This is where Scott was able to make some damage done working this outside line. He's going to have some traffic in front of him here. And so we'll see if he's able to use that momentum to his full advantage here. I think I'm trying to see who that is up in front. I think that may be the 40, if I'm not mistaken. As Craig loses a little bit of momentum off of turn 2, and now you see he's going to jump to the outside. So say now the question though, can Scott clear him? He cannot. That's going to give Craig a little bit of breathing room for at least another lap here. As Jari Brubacher, didn't you mention he's hitting pit road right now as he's now down and away.
So Jack Walls will be the last one to pit again, it looks like.
I think, actually, no, Jack just pitted, so actually it's Joseph Morales once again. He's the one that's running the big fuel numbers here. And right now, as he runs, again, I don't know how far he can go, but he's got up to 6th position. Jim Brooks right behind him. He's got Jim Brooks trapped 1 lap down right now. And again, so basically, Jari, Eric, and Jack here, they can go full tilt on fuel. They know they got easily enough to go full map 1 to the end, as Jim unlaps himself there around Joseph Morales, which is a big thing to have happen there, as Yari's going to try to do the same there in that 49 car. So we're going to jump back, though, because that battle with Scott Rankin and Craig Forsyth, it's kind of on hold for the moment because now Scott's in that same position. He hasn't been able to find a way to get around that 40 of Jim Herrick. now Joseph Morales pits. So that's going to complete our pit cycle here. And I think at this point, Steve, I think we feel everybody's good to go to the end. The question, of course, is going to be how aggressive they can go to the end. But with some of this battling going on, though, it's really kind of shaking up who is where on track, as now Scott Rankin gets around. That's going to open up the door for him to try to set his sights back onto Craig Forsyth. As a good battle here right behind them, Jim Herrick, Eric Peterson. Right now, this actually is going to be the lucky dog battle. Both these drivers a lap down here as they go around Joseph, who just finished his pit stop. So this is going to be as important of a fight for these guys as it is for these fight up front for these leaders.
I think now we'll get an idea of how much faster Scott Rankin might be.
I was just looking at lap times here. Scott Rankin is 0.3 faster than Nick DeGroot right now at this point. Craig Forsyth is about 1/10 faster than Nick DeGroot right now. But right now, the fastest car on the racetrack is Scott Rankin.
Yeah, and that's how it was at the end of the last run. Scott was 3 to 4 tenths a lap faster than Nick at the end of the run.
That's my teammate. I gave him a little insider.
I say the other thing that, I mean, the one thing that we really noticed here, though, is Scott is doing really, really well at running the outside line and just kind of rim riding in and building a ton of momentum. And that's actually something that is pretty tough to do because there's some pretty wicked bumps here at Iowa. And so you don't have a lot of recovery in case you hit a bump wrong, but he is doing a masterful job as, again, you can visually see the gap that closes as he gets closer and closer to Craig. As soon as he gets those exits, you can see that big bump there through the middle of 1 and 2. But it looks like, I think 3 and 4, if he can stay on that top line, that's where he really does his most damage on the exit.
Yeah, I know all about that nasty bump in 1 and 2. It's when you hit it, it's probably going to propel your car straight in the wall. You have to be very, very careful. I know in a stock car, it's even worse.
Yep.
So right now, Craig is doing everything he can to keep that 156 at bay. We saw Craig even move up a little bit through 1 and 2 here. So I think trying to use that same line that Scott is. But again, you can see Craig's running about maybe about a groove lower than Scott has been. But the lap times are starting to kind of equal out a little bit. Last time I was a 67 for Nick, a 68 for Craig. And again, the pit window, they're all pretty much on top of each other now, with Nick pitting at 88, Craig 89, and then Scott, of course, going a little longer at 92. The question, of course, like I said, I felt like 95 was going to be like the magic number for when you could go and then kind of go full, maybe not full rich, but go pretty aggressive to the end. And that's where I go back again here. I'm going to jump to Yari Brubacher because he's jumped himself up into 5th, working over 4th Jeff Heisong here. And he's running, even in the traffic right now, he is in the 1750s, where these guys in front are in the 1760s and 70s. The problem he's got, though, is that he's about 9 seconds off the lead. But still, I mean, a really good run here for Yari here.
And Scott seems to be losing a little bit of time to both Craig Forsyth and the leader.
Yeah, it's all about that dirty air there, boss man. That's... Once you get that dirty air in these cars right now, it's so hard to get that downforce you need on that front wing for able to get your car to turn. So right now he's fighting that, and right now he's trying to choose the opposite line of where Craig is running.
Yeah, that's what I'm noticing. It seems like the groove is definitely starting to move up a lot more. I was watching the battle with Jeff Heisong, Yari Brubacher there as well. And I'll say Jeff also starting to run that middle to top groove as well. So it seems like the groove has really shifted upwards. And I think that momentum, I think that's been, these guys have realized, hey, we can keep a lot of momentum running this third lane here. As again, you see Craig running right at that seam, not the seam, but the dotted line there to start that third lane. Here he runs a little lower. And you can see actually right there, here's a great exit for Scott out of turn number 4. But again, to say, I think we're going to see Craig run that line that Scott wants to run, so he's going to have to cut underneath. But then he has to open up that wheel on the exit, and that's where it's costing him that momentum.
They both have really gained Nick DeGroot.
Oh, here comes a battle for second right here, side by side, going into 1.
Yeah, this is a big look here. Looks like we might have trouble in the back, but I see showing Jim Brooks. Yeah, off track though, so no yellow. Unfortunately, Jim Brooks, an incident off of turn number 2 down the backstretch. So we do stay green though. So and that would have been a big break for Nick DeGroot to have a chance. And I think what Nick was fighting there was looks like maybe trying to get around some traffic here. Just got around Gary Corley. Now trying to work over Joseph Morales. So we'll watch the lap times once again, as right now Craig and Scott making pretty quick work of these guys.
See, you're already going very slow in the racetrack. Is that a fuel management there?
No, I think Yari's still up to pace here. He's working over Jeff Heisong, just hasn't been able to get by Jeff. Jeff's doing a great job running that outside line. And then that battle again, the Lucky Dog battle still. Jim Herrick, Eric Peterson. Jim still has it. Eric is trying for all he is worth to get it. But they can get there. It's just getting underneath, though, is another story. And that's where the issue is they can get there. They just need that whole track width to be able to try to complete that pass without making a huge slide job.
We may have a three-way battle for the lead here soon if these guys can.
If Scott can get around Craig, I really think that he's got a shot at Nick. But laps are winding down, and he's running out of time.
Yeah, that's the thing, is these laps click by very quickly because we're down to single digits here, 9 to go. And yeah, right now, say Craig's still able to hold Scott off at the moment. So again, the big question mark is going to be fuel. Has Nick done enough to save? Is he going to have to save any more before the completion of this race or not? And then of course, yeah, if Scott can get around Craig, does he have a chance to really turn up the wick and try to make a big charge on Nick at the end? But right now, these guys, and again, Yari Brubacher, Jeff Heisong, I'm trying not to jump away from too many of these battles because they're both in the exact same boats right now. They feel like they got the pace, they just haven't found a way to get around. But this is probably right now Scott's best chance here in entering one.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Matt just said. I think that Scott's probably the fastest, or would be the fastest car on the track without the aero problems that he's got running behind Craig. And
he was going for the big run, but he almost caught the wall. He had to back out of it.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's going to have to be a gamble that you make a big move. And at this point, it looks like it's going to be probably a fight for second because Nick's been able to stretch away a little bit. And I'd say even with, so we're down to 5 to go. So I think at this point, he can just kind of ride and save the fuel he needs to if he needs to. But again, I mean, you can see these guys are going for every inch of track right now. It's been a great battle here for the second position.
Yeah, it definitely has.
I missed a good one. Unfortunately, work calls.
Yeah, there's not much you can do in real life happens, but I appreciate you hopping in here with us, man. It's always fun to say, because of anybody, say you've had some of the best insight with these Indy cars, running them as much as you have. But right now, so I do need to mention Yari was able to get around Jeff Heisong to move Yari up into 4th, and Eric Peterson still holding off Jim Herrick still holding off Eric Peterson for that Lucky Dog battle. Right now, this is still our closest battle on track, but we're close here. We're going to be 2 to go here, as Nick DeGroot's just got to go another 2 miles here to get the win.
And I'm watching Scott. He is trying so hard. It's the traffic, the dirty area is so hard for him just to get that run so he can make the pass.
So he's going to have a look here and say, we're going to try to watch through here as they go through 1 and 2. This is his best opportunity, but can't clear him. However, up front, though, it's going to be Nick DeGroot getting the win here tonight. He could coast at this point and get the win, so it's going to be Nick DeGroot getting the win at Iowa. That battle for second going to stay to Craig Forsyth, able to hold off Scott Rankin. And then up into 4th, Yari Brubacher worked the long mileage and was able to jump up to 4th. Jeff Heisong finishes in that 5th position, and then Jim Herrick, Eric Peterson rounds out our finishers there in 6th and 7th, 1 lap down. We'll say, actually, we don't have to tell you because we can pull it up and show you. But Nick DeGroot, though, see if he has enough fuel to celebrate the win here tonight while we pull up our results. So it's Nick DeGroot getting the win over Craig Forsyth, Scott Rankin, Yari Brubacher, Jeff Heisong, Jim Herrick, Eric Peterson, Jack Walls, Alec Coates, Gary Corley, our top 10. And then Thaddeus McMurray, Joseph Morales, and Jim Brooks will be our 13th position. Unfortunately, that late incident, having to take a tow, was not what he needed there, as Nick had just enough to do a couple donuts, and I believe that is all the fuel he had left in that machine. So with that, we gotta start chatting with some drivers here. So it's gonna be one of those ones, I think, Matt, where it's and Steve, I say, where they're gonna be. I think Scott's gonna have had a lot of fun there, but I think there's also gonna be some frustration in his voice there. Just what could have been if he was able to find a way to get around that number 27 of Craig Forsyth. So let's find out what he has to say. So we're gonna grab Scott on in here, and Scott, by far the highest climber, gaining 9 positions, but I'm guessing that's really not what you're looking at tonight, because I mean the pace you had, especially on that long run, that thing seemed like it really kind of turned a switch there towards the second half of those fuel runs there. But then it was pretty much the Scott and Craig show, trying to fight for that second spot to just have a chance at Nick there. I mean, just take us through that battle between you and Craig.
Look, I think the battle, Craig let me have it in the second to last fuel run there, but I'm actually really, really annoyed with myself. I think I threw that one away tonight. I think I was better on tires, better on grip than both of the guys that were ahead of me. I think I had the fastest car in the long run, hands down, which, I mean, at the end of the day, you can sit here and say, yeah, look, I'm frustrated with the P3, but to come out into a league of this quality and sit down and go, I'm frustrated with the P3, like... I was really struggling for pain tonight too. I broke a finger over the weekend, so...
Yeah, we were discussing it actually about just before I hopped in the booth here. You should not be frustrated with the P3. For the driver your caliber, I'm
frustrated with the P3 because that should have been a win tonight. I really feel as if I shouldn't have shown my cards to Craig. Like there's 2 ways to look at this. You can say, yes, I'm frustrated. Yes, I'm upset. Yes, I'm disappointed with the result. But in the end, I think I showed my cards to Craig about which lines that I wanted to run in that second to last run. And I'm happy with that. I took the position away from him, but I needed to make something of that. And I handed it back to him in the pit stop. And as soon as I handed it back to him, I said, look, I'm never getting him again. He knows my lines. He knows how I'm going to get this overtake done now. He's too smart a driver to let that happen again.
Right.
So.
Now, here's my ultimate question here. If you would have short pitted, could you make it off fuel?
No. So when the pit window basically opened when the group pitted.
Okay.
So he was the first car to pit to make it home tonight. And honestly, I should have come down with him. Or at least I should have pitted the same lap as Craig.
Yes.
I'm still unhappy with my pit ends. I did about 5 to 10 pit lane entry practices tonight in practice, and none of them stuck. So I had to go out in the race and go super back it up, make sure that I didn't get that speeding penalty, and you know, there's got to be a lot more pit lane entry practice for me. I'm frustrated with my qualifying. Was very, very happy, pretty comfortable that I could take it to Nick, and it was pretty much going to be me and him on the front row. And then I messed up both of my qualifying laps, didn't set a time, and that started me further back. Look, I wanted to be either at the front of the field or right at the back, so glad I wasn't in the middle. Just a frustrating night all around. Frustrating couple of weeks for me, just not being able to put a lot of stuff together, and then breaking a finger. I've just been in a really bad headspace, and we're turning it around, so...
No, you should not. You should never ever be down with yourself. That's the worst thing a driver can do. I've learned in the past: don't keep your head down, keep your head up, keep trying. Isn't that what you always say to me? Yeah,
look, it is. Like, as soon as I get out of the car, that's where my headspace is. Whilst ever I'm in the car, like, I have this really weird zone that I go into, and I mean, for you American guys not understanding cricket, when I'm batting in cricket, you have to bat for long periods of time, and I'm able to just sort of switch on. Cricket's got a lot of zones in between sort of deliveries or pitches where you need to switch off and then switch on. I can get real fired up. I can get real down on myself in those zones and then immediately reset. And that applies itself really good to car racing. So,
okay, I have one last question from me to you. How bad was the aero push trying to pass Craig?
Really bad. You could not follow him. Full stop. Could not follow him. You had to set up the pass, and the difficulty was, like I said, I showed my cards. So he knew what line that I wanted to run to set up the pass, and I was a little bit aggressive with the pass that I made on him in that second to last fuel stop, so I didn't expect to be given that same level of space. I had to force it to make that pass, and I knew that if I ever got to Nick, I was going to get pretty much the exact same treatment. I wanted that second to last pit stop to go for about another 10 laps, and I would have had both of them comfortable. So.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a lot of fun watching you two duke it out there at the end, and yeah, we weren't sure about the fuel mileage and then I think we saw we kind of saw the pace start to slow down from a couple of you guys. First, friends, like okay, I think they're seeing the fuel numbers and what was gonna need to happen. But so that's another thing to mention though. And say I'm definitely sorry to hear about the broken finger. But Iowa, it's a very rough, bumpy track, especially running that top side. There's a real nasty bump there in the middle of 1 and 2. I mean, how difficult was it for you to try to manage, trying to hustle that car as hard as you were? I'm sure probably having to death grip the wheel a bit too, to being able to kind of do that and manage the pain to kind of get through those bumps. Was it maybe some force feedback adjustments, or I mean, what did you have to do to help yourself out there?
Yeah, force feedback adjustment. I got into the session and it was sort of find my pain point. What's my tolerance? What can I deal with? How can I get through this? So there was definitely with the direct drive wheels, you've got to find that rhythm. You've got to find where you're comfortable. I ran an Australian IndyCar League at Indianapolis earlier in the week, and the force feedback there was actually quite low. So I had it actually dialed up. So I jumped in the car tonight, and I was like, I'm never going to make this upper body strength wise. I have to dial this back. The pain tolerance isn't there as well. It was just finding the rhythm. I really would have preferred if fifth gear was just maybe a fraction longer. The finger that was actually broken is the finger that I'm sitting on my downshifter on my paddle. So downshifting was really where all the pain was, and then getting into that battle with Craig, I was downshifting to fourth as well in the corners, just trying to get the drive off and get the car to rotate and to do what I wanted it to do. And I had to push myself tonight. I pushed myself through it, and fingers crossed, it's going to be 6 weeks before I'm out of the pain. So I'm just going to have to drive through it. There's nothing I can do, and the benefit of the ovals is at least not so much shifting.
Yeah, I mean, definitely hats off for hanging on through it tonight. So I say you can. I say the next guy we're going to talk to after we let you go, though, you can definitely defer to him about having to drive with pain and discomfort. But before we do that, though, we definitely want to give you the floor here, though, Scott, for any thanks and shouts you'd like to give for that third place tonight.
I want to say a big shout out to Craig Forsyth, I think, first and foremost, and Nick DeGroot. I mean, and Matty Wagner here as well, Jeff Highsong, all of these guys. I'm here to improve as a driver, and when I'm driving around the standard of these guys, even when I make a mistake, these guys let me get away with it, and that learning of where my limits are within the car, and what I can and can't get away with, it comes down to those guys and the feedback and the lines that they're forcing me to run. They're making me think real hard about how I'm going to do an overtake as well. You can't just get in these cars and overtake cars. So it's a big shout out to Craig, big shout out to Nick. I might have come off second best here tonight, but there's a lot of learning from what they did to beat me. Yeah, big shout out to all of my team. iRacing started to turn into a bit of moneymaker for me, which is fantastic, and I can't say that I'm so lucky to be able to do that with all shout outs and thanks to 24/7 sim services. You're looking for race controllers for your leagues. Those are definitely the guys to go to, and Flat Out Racing Network as well. Big shout out to Matt Rod and the team over there. They fill me with confidence. And then Indy Auto Sports and our personal sponsors in SimCoin, Sim Thunder, and Martin Sports Apparel as well. So I'm going to have to go and find out if Martin Sports Apparel can maybe help me out with a specific glove for a broken finger or something.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. See if they can, what magic they can work for you. But yeah, great job though tonight, Scott, to be able to muscle that one out, because yeah, that's a tough one to do. Even like I said, even fully functional, so it's a tough track to kind of wrangle there. So yeah, well done tonight, man. Definitely try to relax, try to get that finger better, and look forward to seeing you again soon, though, man.
Had to break my finger the week before Iowa, a week before an intense physical track, right?
That's how it goes.
Thanks, guys.
Great job, Scott.
All right, Steve. We're going to jump over to our second place finisher. And saying, we talked about drivers that had to kind of overcome adversity and pain and things like that. I mean, say Craig Forsyth is one that say maybe he can talk to Scott and tell him how much fun it is to drive when you're injured. But man, Craig, so Scott got around you the first time, and then he mentioned it looks like he probably learned what he was doing on that second fuel run to that final run to the end. Just did everything you had to do there to keep him at bay, to hold on to that second spot. I mean, how tough was it to try to run as hard as you needed to there to keep him behind, but then still, of course, having to make sure that your field numbers were close, because I know you guys were probably right on the edge of making that to the end.
Yeah, well, no, I knew I was good at that point. I had an extra lap of fuel. It was Nick. I really wanted to push Nick because I knew he was going to be tight to within a lap, and I guess he had enough to like coast his way around and not do burnouts. But oh, Scott was so fast tonight, and it was all I could do to keep him at bay. I was talking to Nick, and I think if Scott had gotten around me, he probably would have gotten around Nick. It was just wow. He had speed tonight, and it was everything I could do to make him have to work for a pass.
And you definitely did that. Watching Scott on that second run, he was so much faster than everybody else by the end of that run. Plus, he stretched it more laps. So on that last run, I was like, all right, Craig and Nick are going to have to be a little careful on their fuel. Scott's not. So he's really going to be able to tear around the track. And when he caught up to you, I felt like he definitely had the faster car, but whatever you were doing just made it impossible for him to get the kind of run he needed.
Yeah, I mean, he closed up. I think it was 4 seconds back at one point, and he closed up onto my back in I think 15 laps. It was ridiculous. So I knew if he got by, it was unlikely I was getting by him again. And I'm not comfortable at Iowa. It's not a track that I drive particularly well. I mean, I can drive consistent laps, but Nick had pole, and that was pretty much going to be the end of it for me, unless I could hope to run him out of fuel. And I lost the opportunity to push and pressure him once I think we got to the end we came out of the pits there, and I was right on him and starting to push him, and then we had to get through some lap traffic, and it took me too long to get through the lap traffic, and by then he was out of the draft, and I couldn't keep up anymore. At that point, he was just basically watching watching the gap and only using as much fuel as he needed to make sure he stayed ahead of me.
Yeah, it was definitely some big strategies. Like we were also closely watching Yari towards the end because he went super far over the course of that run, and that was the other thing that we were talking about was kind of what the strategy is going to be, who would be able to make it, how far, things of that nature, and say Yari going to about 102. So we'll definitely be asking Nick this as well. But I mean, how stressful was it for you guys waiting those like 10, almost 15 laps at some points? For the pit stop cycle to completely go through, because it's like, man, if there's a yellow, I could be in a tough spot here, because there's a couple points where I think all of you guys were right at 2 laps down for a little bit there.
We also didn't expect that. I guess the start of the race we were 2 gallons underfilled in our setups, so we were basically short on fuel. It's why we had to pit at, I think, around lap 42 instead of 45 to 47-ish. So yeah, I think it was only the caution that helped us stretch it out so that we could go full bore. We were going to be able to stretch if we worked really hard at full fuel the whole way through with a full fuel in the setup. But it turned out, when we got into the cars, all of the setups were accidentally 2 gallons short. So suddenly you had to work a little harder to save fuel in that first stint to try and make sure you could make it in only 2 more stops.
Oh wow, yeah, that definitely puts a big wrench into I'm sure best laid plans there. So you say go into it with the plan of like, okay, I can run this far, and then you hop in and it's like, oh, I gotta account for this now instead. So but to say it's gonna be, looks like a dogfight all season long here. Say that the top 3 in the points, top 3 once again here tying the finishing order. I say we just crossed the halfway point. I mean, is that something you're looking at every bonus points, little things that you can do here and there to try to edge them out a little bit, or are you just kind of taking things race at a time at this point?
It's looking at the schedule. There's a couple races I've got a good chance at. Looking forward to Michigan, looking forward to Indy, of course, but there's going to be some other races. I mean, especially with how fast Scott is as well. I mean, there's plenty of other guys that are fast. So I'm going to try and keep Nick honest and hope some bad luck befalls him. I've had some bad luck this season, so it'd be nice to even out. But I need to win it on my own accord if it's going to happen. So I'll work my hardest.
All right, Craig. Well done tonight, man. It was a great fight between you and you and Scott. Those final 15, 20 plus laps there. So go rest up. It was a lot of fun watching. Like you said, I'm sure that was a tough one to have to fight that hard for that long, caution free as well. So yeah, great job tonight, man. Enjoyed that one, and look forward to seeing you again soon, man.
Hey, you betcha, guys. Stay safe.
Yeah, great job, Craig.
All right, that leaves us one person left to chat with, and that is going to be our race winner in that number 89 machine of Nick DeGroot, also our pole sitter for tonight. I'd say kind of checks off a bunch of the marks there, though, Steve. Say get the pole position, lead the most laps, get the win. I'll say it's pretty much all you can do for a max points night tonight. But say something. I'll start off with something I asked Craig though, because you were one of the first that had to hit pit road a couple of those times. How much were you sweating bullets there at a couple of those points when you see drivers like Jari Brupacher running so long on fuel there, and you're just like, man, please no yellow, please no yellow, because I mean that could really put you guys in a big hole if things went the wrong way there.
Oh yeah, that was really intense because I was right at the edge of the pit window every time I was pitting, and those guys like Jari that were going very long. I was nervous with two things. One, the yellow's coming out, but more so than that, me just making it because I was right on the number or right below it every time I was pitting. So it was a very precarious position to be in. But on the upside of that, we had the lead, so that was just perfect for us to be all with that clean air, and everybody behind us just can kind of control the pace, while we save fuel.
And when you had to pit so early on the first run, one of the things I said is, I don't think you're going to be able to make it on the same number of pit stops as the guys that pitted under caution and were stretching fuel. So I felt like on that second run that you probably had to really focus on saving fuel. And I noticed that Craig and Scott were really running you down at the end of that run. Is that what you were doing?
Yeah, and it's a little embarrassing to admit, but I kind of forgot I was in an IR team for a little bit, and I wasn't using the fuel map. I was just kind of backing down my pace. And about halfway through the second, I'm like, Nick, this isn't Dark Horse. Use the fuel map. So that helped me out there, helped bridge the gap. But definitely some nervous laps there that didn't need to be as nervous coming down for that final time and that last run there.
Yeah, it was pretty. Yeah, and that's it's a good point because it's night and day. Those two cars, they're open wheel Indy cars, but so you've got a lot more knobs and dials to play with these things than you do with those DW12s. Other than brake bias, actually, that's all you got over there with those things. But yeah, I mean, and then I think the other big thing that was really kind of throwing some drivers, or that was a big concern for drivers, was pit stops. Of course, have that one quick yellow, but then from then on out, go caution free. Got to make those two green flag pit stops. I mean, you guys are going, I think you were topping out about 190, 195 entering the turns there. And then you got to try to find a way to get that thing stopped and slowed down to be able to hit the pit road there. I think it's at 40 miles an hour. I mean, how much is that going to is that practice that you just put laps into, just make sure I hit my marks and find kind of the best place to enter and slow down? Or, I mean, what's the stress point on that part for the pit stops as well?
Well, I was actually focusing on entering 3 in practice because I thought that's where we were going to have to do it. But then before the race, they say, no, do it at your discretion. So I'm like, oh, crap. It's faster to go in off the banking, but I didn't practice that at all. So just another thing to throw into the pot to be nervous about during that race. I definitely didn't expect to have it go almost completely green other than that first lap incident. So that was something. And I'll tell you what made tonight really simple for us was getting that pole. I'm not very good at Iowa, believe it or not. I don't like this place, but I hit on something when I was doing practice Q runs. And that really helped me go into qualifying there, get the pole, and be like, all right, well, that just made it a lot easier. I don't have to deal with dirty air or passing people, and can kind of just keep this thing out front, and hopefully we can retain the lead for the entire race. And outside of green flag pit stops, that's exactly what we did. So worked like a charm.
Yeah, so I love it when a plan comes together. So I think Steve was spying on you during practice as well. So I think he may have found what you had picked up on too, if I'm not mistaken there, Steve.
Not quite, but maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not going to share it because I know we're coming back here in the future. So I just got to put that in the memory bank.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about me. Just sitting on the sidelines.
And I won't remember even if you told me. So your secret's safe with me as well. But just awesome job though tonight, Nick. And it's something we were mentioning. I mean, again, top 3 in points coming into tonight, finishing top 3 once again. So I mean, it looks like it's pretty much going to be you two all duking it out for the win. And again, there's no playoffs or anything like that. So it's just going to be basically the best 12 races minus the drop week, of course, for the season champion. So I'm sure it's also good to get a little more buffer over these two guys because you never know how the remainder of the season's going to go.
Yeah, it made it very easy for me with that drop week at the beginning of the season with that whole deal at Fontana. I knew from the get-go, that's your drop week. Now be perfect the next 11 weeks. So that's what we've been trying to do here. And more or less, we've done a really good job of that. Got a lot of podiums, a few wins. And yeah, I'll tell you what, at the end of that race, though, I was real nervous about Scott. I was trying my best to feed dirty air to him, but I couldn't tell which one was Scott and which one was Craig behind me. So I was kind of guessing, trying to be like, all right, I think that's Scott because I feel like if he had gotten by Craig, he had the pace to get to me, and I'd be talking to you guys about finishing second right now.
So, Nick, I have a question. This is Matt talking. So how do you feel about the setup this week? It's a little bit different than iRacing, has done with these cars here. The last short track we ran was quite a bit different. Now this week it is no longer pretty much flat foot, put your foot to the floor all the way around. Now what iRacing has done is put a little bit more downforce into the car, but it makes it a little bit more of a handling racetrack now. So what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I fully expected this to be a very different race. Like, obviously, clean air is always going to be key in IndyCar, especially at tracks like this. But I love the fact that there was no perfect line. You could run the bottom, you could run the middle, you could run the top, you could run the bottom in 1 and the top in 3. It was really interesting to have all those possibilities available. And throughout that race, I was trying every single one, and I wasn't quite sure which one I wanted to stick to, especially as the tires wear off. You kind of transitioned around the track from top to bottom and vice versa. So that was really interesting. I like that. I think it made it a much more interesting race than Iowa normally is.
Now there's a big bump in 1 and 2. Did you happen to find that bump a couple of times a little bit difficult for you?
Yeah, I was aware of that bump beforehand, and every time because I hit it a couple times, and every time I knew I was going to hit it, I kind of prepared myself for it and rolled over it. I didn't gas it up because that'll bounce you right up into the wall. But going through lap traffic, I kind of utilized that because I knew nobody was going up there to just kind of get through the corner easier and set up for turn 3. But yeah, it's another interesting thing about this track. That weird bump up top in turn 1 will definitely catch you out if you're not paying attention.
Well, I first off, I'd like to congratulate you on your win tonight. It was very good job sitting here watching, but too bad I wasn't on the racetrack. I probably would have given them run for your money. I love the fact that handling is a key here at Iowa now, and it's more of a driver's racetrack. That thing there is just 100%. I really applaud our iRacing for that. Yeah, it would have been a hell of a battle.
Absolutely. I missed you, Matt, so I'm looking forward to having you on the track again next week.
Oh, likewise. I'll turn it over to these guys. They know what to do better than I do.
I think we quizzed Nick all we could there. So I say, but before we let him go, like I said, I know you got some really good associates on that car. And like I said, a lot of people that help you out to get to this point. So definitely want to give you the floor here, Nick, for anything. So shout outs you'd like to give for being able to get this win here tonight.
Yeah, as always, thank you everyone at Factory Back Motorsports, motorsport.com, KelbyMoore.com, BlazePod, Wegmans, Good Automotive U-Haul and Detailing, and of course, Cowboy Shit. And I'm looking forward to Kentucky next week, back to the 1.5 miles. So that should be an interesting one. It's a 1.5 miles, but it's bumpy like this place, so it should be good.
Yeah, I would say it's the wrong schedule for Scott after his mishap, but yeah, great job though tonight, man. Enjoy this one, and say yeah, go get ready for some more bumps next week.
Absolutely, thank you guys.
Congrats on the win, Nick.
Thank you.
All right, so that is going to do it for us here tonight. So, Steve, as always, really want to thank you for being able to be a part of this. And Matt, like I said, I'm definitely sorry that you weren't able to make the race tonight, but really appreciate you hopping in and being able to kind of give us some of your, like I said, some really good insight because you know these things inside and out. So, definitely big thanks to you for being a part of this. And of course, like I said, really want to thank everybody that's supporting us here on Green White Checkered TV. But again, I also want to go back though, and definitely want to mention once again though, for those that maybe didn't catch earlier, for still thinking of you, Mr. Peterson, and say Eric's going to be going to visit his dad there. So, like I said, hope you have a quick and full recovery. I say everybody here at Area 51 Dark Horse Green White Checker TV all around to say we're all thinking of you and definitely hope for a quick and speedy recovery. So, look forward to hoping, like I said, hopefully be able to start watching these races again from the comfort of your own home here very soon.
Just being in a booth with Steve here, it is even more of an honor. Just to have been privileged to call a race with Steve. I thank you for guys letting me have you guys here. It's an honor and a privilege. I'm looking forward to Kentucky next week. It's going to be a blast. I'm already working on the Richmond setup. That's going to be a blast too. That's another short track we're headed to. I'm really looking forward to that one as well. I enjoyed the race, guys. It was very good.
Enjoyed having you in the booth, Matt, and you asked a lot of very insightful questions that definitely were educational to the people watching and to us as well.
I've been driving these cars for so long. It's not even funny. It seems like sometimes you need a break from it from a little bit. I know, Gaio, sometimes you think about that for a little bit sometimes. But a break from it feels pretty good. Just watching these guys race. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I'll say we got plenty more racing to come this week, though. We'll be back on Thursday for the Super Speedway Truck Series. To say Matt should be hopefully back behind the wheel of those. Hopefully grab Brandon back in the booth with me. And, of course, back on Sunday for the Super Speedway Xfinity Series as well. So until then, hope you all have a wonderful evening. As always, if you can, of course, try to stay safe. Until next time, though, have a good night. Take care, and we'll see you next time.
Night, everybody, and always great to do this with you, Gael.